morning and welcome to Workforce 3.0. Today, I'm honored to have Dr. Talisa Dixon with the superintendent of the Columbus City Schools with us to share some of her vision on how K through 12 prepares people for the world of work. So thank you, Dr. Dixon, so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I'm excited about this opportunity to speak about K-12 education.
Great. So let's start with, I know you're still relatively new to the community, but you're really not new to the community.
Yeah.
So why don't you share with us your journey and how you got here?
Yeah, so it's been 19 months since I've returned. And I share with people that you never know where the journey is going to take you. So it's always good to do a great work no matter where you are. When I left Columbus in 2010, I was the principal of Columbus Alternative High School, COS, and I had a great opportunity to go to Michigan with a friend who received his first superintendency. So 5 of us moved to Michigan um, and did a great work there. So I love Columbus. I love being here. So I just said, here was the opportunity to do something different. So I left. I stayed in Michigan for 4 years. Wanted to work for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation afterwards because I wanted to do this philanthropic work. And a friend of mine said, Talisa, you need to apply for this superintendency job. And they told me about a job in Cleveland Heights. And I applied for it. It was the only job I applied for, and I got it and stayed there 5 years. And then the opportunity to come back to Columbus. I wasn't sure, but I was thinking about the opportunities that I had in Columbus prior, loved it, and was asked to come back and accepted it. So again, you never know what a journey is going to take you. So I tell the new teachers, I said, make sure you do a great work. And even when you're discouraged, leave with dignity and respect because you may want to come back again. So it's been a great journey. And it's been good to be back in Ohio too. You know, gone for those 4 years, was here for 9 years prior. So it's good to be back.
Fantastic. Well, we are happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, as the workforce director, one of the things that I think about, I'm very concerned, right, about our emerging workforce, because we know that one of the number one things that creates a vibrant economy here in Central Ohio is our ability to provide talent for businesses, right, who want to locate here or who are here and operating. So what I'm interested in is, what is your vision for the K through 12 system for preparing kids, first of all, to be well-educated and well-rounded, and then also knowing that their next step, hopefully after they leave you, is hopefully some kind of post-secondary credential potentially, but also perhaps right into the world of work. So what's your vision around that? I know there's some tension sometimes in between what we expect out of education. So what do you?
But that's a great question. I think sometimes that tension comes from our own personal journeys and our philosophies about what we believe are best for kids. And even my own journey, I was a college graduate. My parents were college graduates. So, and for me, it was college was the only option. That was the door to your future success. And I carried that belief with me. And so as a teacher and administrator, I always push kids to go to college. You know, that was the only way. Then later I started to see a change and I said, wow, am I pushing kids in the wrong direction? Some kids have talents and skills and don't necessarily want to go to college in order to be the professional that we know that they can be. So my role as a principal, I began to shift and said, it is time for me to focus on students being prepared for whatever pathway they choose. But it's my job to make sure that they're prepared. And
Mhm.
so, as a superintendent, that has been my philosophy. There are so many opportunities for our kids. And when they leave Columbus City schools, they should be prepared for the world of work, college, military, whatever it is that they want to do. My job is to make sure that they've had that exposure and that experience. So I think of that tension with our belief system, the philosophy of the organization, and then the values of the business communities with the school. I believe that if the business community values that K-12 community, then they're going to open doors for the experiences that our students need in order to make that good decision about the world of work. Because a lot of students don't know any other, they may know about fast foods, they may, but
Mhm.
I may know about a factory, and those are not bad jobs, but you could be exposed to that prior to graduating through internships and site visits, or just having a mentor who was the CEO of a company or a masonry. But there's so many ways that we can expose our kids. So my job is to give you the exposure and make sure that when you graduate, either pathway that you want to go, it is available for you. You are prepared. Yeah.
Great. Great.
Mm.
I feel when I speak with businesses, they're looking for what I call the 5 C's, right? They want employees who can communicate, collaborate, think critically, be creative, and know how to continuously learn, right? And I feel I say that to businesses all the time when they're looking for, they say we want job ready kids.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
I'm like, well, if they've learned those things, which they can learn, even if they're going to get on into a college degree, right? Hopefully those are the things that we're helping them to learn. And then, they can adapt to whatever their interest is in work, but they'll be good employees. And that's what we should be aiming for.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's going to, when businesses employers say that, I push back some and say, well, how can you help us get that, right? Because our families are sending us their very best. And many times our students are coming without exposure. I'm often saying exposure changes expectations. Once kids have an opportunity to see it, then they have a different mindset, right? They have a different mental model. So, for example, um, for me, when I was younger, I was oh gosh, I can't even think of the term of what it was. When you work in a hospital, a candy striper, right? So they don't have those anymore, right? But I was a candy striper in a hospital, volunteering. I was a Girl Scout. I was all of those things that I was able to see. Oh, this is what happens in a hospital. Oh, you give juice to the mother who's expecting the baby. All of but you're also learning. You're meeting different people. I then went on to work at McDonald's. I tell every kid, I think McDonald's is the perfect place for any teenager to work because you meet people of all walks of life, the very richest kid from the poorest, but everybody wants to go to McDonald's.
Right.
But you have that exposure that you are meeting different people, you're in different environments, and you're learning how to look people in the eye, how to say yes and no. And I'm a Southern girl. I was born and raised in Oxford, Mississippi. So it was yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. But I was exposed to that.
Hmm.
So I think
Hmm.
unless we help our, students be exposed to those environments, then they may not know how to communicate. Because K-12 spaces, we're inundated with high stakes testing. Now we have these computers, we have independent learners. We don't have many students who even want to talk to you. So many students are introverts. You're texting them to come to dinner. You're texting them to, all these chores. And I think our environment has changed so much that we don't have as much interaction with our students now, that we are trying to make sure, and business communities are saying, well, I want you ready. I want you to be able to smile and look and greet. I want you to know how to come in dressed appropriately and all those things that some kids aren't taught those. And they expect the K-12 school, organization to stop and tell kids how to dress and public speaking and some programs that happens. But I think it's both of us working together and understanding that here's a pathway for you. And these are some things that you have to do to get ready. But the experiences and the exposure, even as a young child, I think helps you. Think about the Girl Scout and the Brownie, and it comes Scout and you're learning how to sell cookies and popcorn and, you're building skills, you're earning your badges and all of those things that you're building skills that I think helps you, in the classroom and helps you get ready for the world of work. Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think that is something that's missing is we need to, and that's something I think that, we should be doing as well, right? In support of that is
Yeah.
helping kids get the opportunity to have work experiences, get exposed to different careers, what's available in the Central Ohio economy. I mean, there's lots of things you can be here, right?
Yeah.
And then encouraging them and supporting them in working and getting that exposure, maybe in the summer times, right? When they're not in school.
Yes. Right. Because a lot of kids don't know. You would be amazed at what when you think a kid says, "Oh, okay, I can work on you know, as a masonry, right? Okay, well, what all do they do? Well, you have to take different courses. There are different skill sets that you need, and it's more rigor. So even our career tech pathways, they want the very best students. There was a time years ago that we put students on tracks. The smart kids go left, the not so smart kids, you go to work and you figure it out. Students are saying, you know what? I don't want to go to college. I know what I want to do. I am going to take the career tech. My two brothers, my brothers are both engineers. My younger brother, he went through a career tech track. He knew at the ninth grade, I want to be an engineer. I am going to the business and industrial tech school. And my older brother went through a college track. And my younger brother still says today, he teaches my older brother that he makes more money because when he finished college, he was ahead because of the years that he did in the career tech area in high school that really advanced him. So there's value, but I still say it goes back to exposing kids of multiple possibilities and then let them choose early. Middle school, I mean, we're, middle school and sometimes elementary, really exposing kids and then show them that the pathway to success is possible. Um, but you still have to have those skills, study hard, work, have some work ethic, all of those things that we want students to know when they cross the finish line, but they're learning it and they understand what it means because they're doing something with it right now. Yeah.
I want to take something you said that's so important
Okay.
that we have a hard time and trying to get across to parents. This idea that career technical education can also be college prep.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you
Absolutely.
think we change that narrative? Not to mention that it can also be the path,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do you think
Yeah.
we change that narrative with parents? Because that
Yeah.
I know is something we're focused on.
That's wonderful. I think it's community, one community at a time. So, for example, my former community, it was we're sending our kids to college, superintendent. That's the option. This is what we believe in, right? So I said for here, it's how do we make sure we are exposing our families to the possibilities for their kids, right? So many times the families may say, well, this may not be an opportunity for me. Okay, I'm going to continue on this journey. But there's a possibility for my student at a plant that's right down the street, right? Why? Because someone has exposed the families in that community to the opportunities for the next generation that are right there local. And so they're not seeing a commercial on TV or someone, passing by their communities wondering, hey, where are they working at? What's happening at the Amazon plant, right? Are they only shipping? No, they're doing other things at Amazon, for example. Um, I think we having those conversations with the community and asking each community, what is it that you want for your kids? How can we come together and provide that for you? What does that look like? They will tell you, and whatever it is, I think we respond to it. We respond to, okay, you want internships for your students, you want a rec center or work something, whatever it is that you want that will help students get to this outcome. I think we listen to our communities to help with that while still working with our schools, right? Because we're still preparing you. But I think that's important because many people don't understand, I think, what's happening around in their communities and how that could, how they're impacted or how their students could, or their children could be impacted by what's happening in their communities. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. hmm Just
So
those
we,
little conversations.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now we've talked about parents, and that takes us to another aspect of what you have, as if K through 12 isn't enough, right?
Yeah.
You also have the opportunity for some career technical education for adults. And
Yeah.
what is your vision for that part of the operation?
Oh, wow.
As I shared with you, we send a lot of people through the LPN program and it's been a wonderful program, well received, been a great opportunity for people to get a job right into the middle class because even the starting pay is pretty good. So
Yeah. Right. Right.
yeah,
Well, one, I said I think K-12 spaces have to be good partners, right? And know that it just doesn't end at 12th grade and when you're 18. There are opportunities because students, life just takes people in different directions. And there's always a second chance to do something great. So here it is, we have an opportunity to bring adults that perhaps in many cases have younger kids. So how awesome is it to have this journey with your students, and say, hey, you can do it and I'm doing it too, even with a full-time job or a part-time job. And we get away from this stereotype that K-12 spaces are only for these age groups, right? And we become more of a community partner and knowing that we could stretch ourselves and open our doors to our partners and to our families in a very different way. If we're going to change the lives of our students and families, we have to stretch ourselves and provide something else in partnership with the organization to say, you want to LPN? Okay, we open our doors. We're not using our buildings after 5 o'clock anyway, right? Hey, let's put these classes here. HVAC. Oh my gosh, you can get a good trade. We have people that want those industry credentials. The jobs are there. We have people. Hey, you know let's utilize our facilities for that program too. And it's been wonderful, well received. Um, and that's how our organization is changing. There are no walls. I think COVID has taught us that too, right? We have to wrap our arms around our students and our families and figure out what's going to save us, getting rid of the walls and saying that our school buildings are open to other programs, to partners, to help families. So that's our, I think that's our job. That's part of my mission to really work with partners to remove barriers for students and their futures and their families in any way possible.
Okay, we're going to pause a minute. I'm going to
Yes.
throw the cat outside. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Here you go. Honest to God, a cat is worse than having a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old would be cute. I could put him up. A cat, not so much.
Not so much.
Normally she goes right outside, but on a day like today, she's like, I don't know if I want to go outside.
Now I'm
So
gonna go
I left the
outside.
door open so she stops whining at me. So.
Right.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
Anna will take that out.
Yes.
Okay. So back to where we were. So I like what you've said about making the resources, because you have a lot of assets under your control that the community can really take advantage of.
Yes.
And especially as we try to also make sure adults have the right kinds of skills for moving into work.
Right,
So,
right. And many times as adults who didn't have a good K-12 experience, right? So for some reason, something happened along the way. They didn't have a good experience. So here it is, we're saying, hey, this is another opportunity to use our spaces to have a better experience, because now as an adult, they understand the things that we're trying to teach them for, prior to leaving, right? And you're
right,
thinking,
right.
you got to get ready, but you have some students, according to their situations, like, I'm ready for the world, and you're like, oh no, please don't leave us, you're not ready. And they come back, and we welcome them back, and they come with a different mindset too. They understand the importance more than ever, to getting that good job and providing for their families and doing something that they love, because they've tried some other things and they say, you know what, I really like this. And it goes back to, how can we expose students earlier
Right.
so that you don't leave? Think about how many people that change their majors like 3 times or 4 times before they graduate, because they're really trying to figure out what it is that I like to do and how can I get involved in it. I mean, I have a bachelor's and master's in sociology. I wanted to be a sociologist, right? And oh my gosh, for 6 months I was doing this job and I'm like, I can't do this. This is not in me. Um, but had I had some experience earlier, I probably would have known.
Mhm.
No, Talisa, that's not you. But you know, yeah,
So one of the things I saw about you that I was really pleased to see, because for us it's such an important issue, is the whole issue of equity and making sure. I know just from my experience in economic development and workforce, that a diverse workforce, people who are bringing their lived experiences and their perspectives, makes for much stronger companies, organizations, anybody, wherever anybody ends up working. And we also know that Ohio as a state is not growing. And I don't think that's going to change with what's happened with COVID, right? I mean, we're
right,
growing at a very minimal. And so we have to really invest in everybody, because we need everybody's talent, because we're just not going to be attracting the numbers of people, and nor should we need to, right?
yeah,
We have
mhm,
talent here. So
right,
I'm interested in how you see how you see building awareness with students about their worth and that they matter, that they should be developing their talent, that we need their talent. I'm curious as to, I know you brought in a specific person to focus on that.
Yes, 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 yes. Wow, that's a great question. And it's one I think we as a nation are still wrestling with, right? And as a person of color, it's something that I've had to face as a little girl, you know, growing up in Mississippi. And even though my parents were educators, I was always reminded of the color of my skin, but to be the very best, regardless of where you come from or what you look like. You be your very best, right? But that came from my parents, right? It came from home, and it came from the experiences where we had, you know, piano lessons from Miss Dukes. And she was the white piano teacher that taught in my mom's school. And all my friends had Mr. Jones, who was a black piano teacher from the local church, right? And so my
Right.
piano recitals were at the local libraries and theirs was at the church. And I'm thinking, well, why can't we go to the church and have our recital? It was the exposure and the pushing us and saying that you belong in any room, in any place, right? So now you get to students who don't have that, who families may not know where they belong because of their experiences
Hmm.
and may have felt that they did not belong in the room. So, how, to your question, how do you build that confidence in a student, to all students, regardless of their race, their gender, their religious background, to feel their worth? And I
Hmm.
think it starts with making sure that when they enter our classrooms, the teacher know who they are. You know who each person is. You're trying to find out as much as you can about the student and their families, and you're pushing for excellence. You're
Hmm.
saying that, hi, Talisa, hi, Lisa, welcome to Columbus City Schools, where you will graduate and be prepared to go to the workforce and to college, to the military, wherever it is that you're going to be ready.
Hmm.
And I am going to help build you up and hopefully give you some experiences to help too. Now, the organization has to help teachers get to that. We have to be able to provide the professional development so that teachers can have the language and the knowledge, because some people, you live in your environment. So
Hmm.
some things that you may not be aware of, right? And you have to have those tough conversations. You know, how are little girls treated if they want to be a scientist?
Hmm. Right.
How are young boys treated if they want to be a nurse? Right? How am I treated as an African American? I want to go into a law firm. We have, those biases that we may have, the implicit biases that we may display, we don't realize that we are. We have to be able to talk about it
Hmm.
and address it within our organizations because it's real. Um,
Yes.
Having this equity lens for our organization, to me, is saying that equity is just not something we do. It's something that, is who we are, right?
Hmm.
And who we are as an organization is, here we are a K-12 space, and we're here to remove all barriers. All. It's
Hmm.
not to level the playing field. It's to give people what they want based on what they need, right? And so, my challenges may not be your challenge, but the organization should be able to say, I'm going to remove that barrier from you to Lisa, and Lisa, I'm going to remove this barrier for you. So it takes the organization time to erase the things that were done for so many years.
Hmm.
When I first entered the organization, I said, okay, team, give me your stop do list. And everybody's like, what? Stop doing? I said, yes. The things that you're going to stop doing so we can focus on the things that you are going to do well. 19 months, I still don't have those lists because people struggle with stop doing something because in their minds that means I'm not valued, my, what would I focus on? But it
Mm,
means, guys, in order for us to provide equity in our buildings for our students, we have to stop doing something. Um, and we have to have those tough conversations. The equity work is, I think, the toughest work I've ever had in my career. In my former district, we were able to get a equity strategy, a equity policy. It was hard
mhm.
because you're talking about some things that could be very uncomfortable for people, because people would say, well, I don't see it that way. Well, if you are black or brown and you walk into a room, people know you're black or brown.
Right.
You don't get to choose that. So are they, do people recognize you and say something different or think differently because of that? Or what's in a name? We do an exercise. When you see Talisa versus Lisa, do you make assumptions just with the name, right?
Mhm.
So all of those things that we have to be careful, even in workforce development, who's in what jobs, right? Who's HVAC, who's going to technology, who's going to be the LPNs, right? And do we have biases around who are we preparing for which pathways?
Right.
So you have to be intentional. And I think if you start young and you said, hey, this group of first, third graders are going to be our next group of workforce in 10 years. And how am I going to focus to make sure every third grader, regardless of their race or background or gender, is going to be ready to go in company X
Mhm.
in
Right.
10 years, right? So it's difficult work, difficult conversations, and organizations have to ultimately change their practices. So if you ultimately change your practice, then it becomes systemic. And then you're saying, okay, we're on our way because we're doing something intentional in order to get the results that we want, that we know are the right results to get. Yeah,
Right. Right. Absolutely.
yeah. And that's the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Yeah, yeah.
Now, if we don't, but you have to have this hard conversation, and you can't just have it once either. It's got to keep going, or we miss the moment again, and we can't afford to miss the moment again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think we make assumptions of what people know, right?
Mhm.
And we all do. And it's something that, people make assumptions that people that don't go to college, if you go just into the workforce, you don't make as much money. And I'm like, guys, are you serious? No, that does not make that. No, I know more people who chose a different pathway who are making lucrative jobs. But they don't know, and I
Right.
think, we are not doing our due diligence when we are pushing kids toward one pathway and saying that that is the pathway to a middle class life. That is not um, that is not the way the conversations we should be having with our kids. We should be exposing them to say you can be an entrepreneur, and if you want to start and then you later on want to work in a Fortune 500 company, you can. So yeah, a lot of work to do, a lot of conversations to have, but I think we have them early and often, and just have authentic conversations with our partners and families.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Well, we have come to the end of our time, which is
Oh,
unfortunate.
okay.
But I have one question that I've asked everybody I've interviewed. I'd like to know, Dr. Dixon, if you
Yeah,
had the opportunity to go back to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell them now? Tell yourself, not tell them, tell yourself about what they should be thinking about from where you are now in your career.
yeah. I would tell myself to take more risks.
Ah,
Take more risks. Um, the world is so big, in that it's just not one point of entry to success. You
Mhm.
know, at 18, my pathway was my parents were saying, you, all four of you are going to college. Now, and if you go and you don't like it, you can go to the military, but you're going to college, right? So I did this track. You know, I went to college, graduated 4 years, went to graduate school, did masters and a doctorate, and did work. I was on this, and I missed so much,
Mhm.
right? I missed opportunities to just explore. I would have traveled
Mhm.
earlier, went to other countries, did a mission. I mean, just would have done so many different things. I mean, I think our journey is our journey, but it is, don't think that your pathway at 18. I love it now when I hear people say they're going to take a gap year. I love it, right? You're going to take time to explore, to see exactly what it is that you want. Um, and I didn't. And it was, you're thinking you're 18, you're an adult, but now you look back, I was
Right.
just a baby, right? Because like I was a baby, I didn't know what I was doing. I would have, just said, Talisa, take more risks, push back, and do that internship, explore some things that you didn't think were possible, and go for it. It makes you who you are. I didn't start traveling until graduate school. um, and then I took a big risk 2 summers ago, and I went to Africa by myself on a trip with
Wow.
Egypt for 2 weeks. I said none of my girlfriends would go. They said, "You're not going to an island. You're going to Egypt. We're not going to Egypt with you." And I had a lady who was a roommate. She was 82 years old that they
Wow.
paired me with. Oh my gosh! I said, "Now she's 82 and she can do this." Oh my gosh! But it's just take more risk. Life is short. And I think that's what we have to do, because we want our students to be risk takers, right?
Right.
That's part of it. Hey, be a risk taker. So at 18, Lisa, slow down, take more risk. You have your whole life. You have more years ahead than you do behind. I used to say that. Now it's like, oh my gosh.
The opposite, right?
And then it's the opposite. Oh my gosh, I think I have more behind than I have ahead. So that, yeah, yeah, take more risks. Yeah.
That
Because
is
I missed a lot. Yeah, I missed a lot. And I think now, you can cut this out. But when I think I'm not married yet, I don't have children yet, and I just, in my mind, it was okay, you do this, and this is gonna come. And now you hear and you thinking, it's COVID and I'm by myself. What's happening here? It's like, what? And you think about, things that you could have done differently, the risk, but you get scared, you don't know what to do, and you're using all this advisement of people and your parents saying, you're going here. And so, yeah, so now I've gotten older and now I'm taking risks. I'm riding motorcycles and doing all kinds of crazy stuff now
right.
that I would have done differently at 18. Yeah.
That's great advice. Your
Yeah.
students should hear that advice.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, this has
Well,
been good.
yes, thank you. I just really want to thank you for taking the time. I thoroughly enjoyed this,
Oh,
and
oh
this has
yeah.
been a great conversation for me too.